Well, guys, I am finally back today to tell you my favorite films of 2024 so far. And some of you might come on here and be like, where's this movie? Where's that movie? And to be honest with you, when it comes to releases, there are some films that get dropped in 2024 that their technical release date was 2023 that would have been on my prior year's list. You can always comment down below and ask me. But these are the movies that I've watched within this year that are technically considered the release date of 2024 in the United States. It's always difficult. Release dates are always so weird. I feel like post COVID, they've gotten even weirder. Sometimes you'll get films tagged for 2022 that were technically released in 2024 because of festival circuits and what have you. I try my best to stay on track and record those in the best way that I possibly can. But today I'm going to talk about my 15 favorite films of the year so far. I'm not going to do honorable mentions. Instead of doing a top 10 and say, oh, my honorable mention, I'm just going to give you my top 15 favorite films of the year so far. These are in the closest order I can possibly pick because I love a lot of these movies. I feel like there are a lot of them that could kind of shift in the lineup based on how I'm feeling from one day or another. But let's get into my 15 favorite films of 2024 so far. Coming in at number 15 is the film Something You Said Last Night. This is a movie I absolutely adored that was released on VOD this year that was about a young trans woman going on vacation with her family. It's an incredibly simplistic premise. It's very much a slice of life movie with really realistic interactions between characters, but I loved the genuine authenticity of the film, and I loved how many joyful moments there were between the characters despite some of the drama that builds up. I really loved all the performances in this movie. I felt like all the actors did a really incredible job, and I was just hooked for the entire hour and a half runtime. I really hope this director gets to make more films because I just thought that it was really fantastic. Coming in at number 14 is the film Hundreds of Beavers, probably one of the most creative movies that I've ever seen. It was like watching a live action cartoon or a video game play out in front of you. My mind just couldn't process everything that was going on and how difficult it must have been for this filmmaker to accomplish what they did in the entire runtime of this movie. I do feel like there are some moments where it gets a little bit repetitive, but I can excuse it because in Looney Tunes cartoons and Animaniacs and all of those things, they too would also get very repetitive in their shtick. But I really respect them for going for it and making a movie that was incredibly immersive and charming and fun. And I know a lot of people have talked about this movie this year, but if you have not seen this movie, please watch it. It is incredible. Coming in at number 13 is the film Totem. I watched this movie on the Criterion channel. It was just released in the United States on VOD, and I thought this movie was beautiful and moving. It's about a young girl who finds out that her father is dying and they're going to his birthday party, but they all know that it is the last time that they're probably ever going to be able to celebrate his birthday. And we're seeing all of the family members' reactions to the fact that he is sick and ill and that they're all trying to ignore the fact that his death is coming. And I just think it's such a poignant and real statement on how so many of us process death and grieving, and how no one really knows how to approach when someone dies. No one really knows how to act. And even though it's inevitable and it happens to everyone, we don't know how to react in those situations. And I think the director does a brilliant job portraying that through the eyes of a child witnessing all these people kind of react to that situation. It's beautifully shot, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since I watched it. Coming in at number 12 is the film Sometimes I Think About Dying, starring Daisy Ridley, a movie that honestly made me uncomfortable with how realistic it was to the feelings of depression and to the feeling that sometimes you just feel like you're not good enough and that you don't feel like you belong. And there were so many moments in this I found myself uncontrollably sobbing. I think this is a movie that I'll just grow to love more over time. Daisy Ridley, everyone knows her for Star Wars, but I feel like she's such a talented actress who I hope gets a lot of work outside of that world so that she can be recognized for something else, because this movie just truly, to me, showcased the level of talent that she has. She doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue in this movie, but she does so much through her facial expressions. I was blown away by the cinematography in this film. It's incredibly simplistic, but it is so beautiful. Coming in at number 11 is the film The Last Stop in Yuma, County. I'm a huge fan of Jim Cummings. I love his directorial work. When I found out he was starring in this movie, I had to see it. And this movie felt like a mixture of like early Coen brothers, Quentin Tarantino. It is dark comedy, it is violent, it is over the top, and it is so suspenseful for its hour-and-a-half runtime. I was on the edge of my seat from start to finish in this movie. It was such a fun experience that I recommend having. Go in as blindly as possible and just enjoy yourself. It is a wonderful time. Coming in at number 10 is Rose Glass's film Love Lies Bleeding. I adored this movie. Thought the two lead performances were exceptional, super unique and creative cinematography. It got into the fantastical realism element in the third act, which I thought really attributed to the film's overall message. I love queer romance. I think that the queer romance portrayed in this movie is fantastic. I love that both characters are relatively toxic, but they also have their redeeming qualities, and I think that's true to each and every human being. No one is perfect. Everyone has their flaws, and I think Rose Glass explores that perfectly in this film. I had such a fun time watching this movie. I already pre-ordered my A24 Blu-ray, and I cannot wait to watch it again. Coming in at number 9 is Dev Patel's directorial debut, Monkey Man, a brilliant action film that I felt like had so much more under the surface. Love the trans representation in this movie. It was bombastic in the best way possible, but when it was quiet and nuanced, it was so thoughtful and brilliant, looking at the disparity between the wealthy and the impoverished in this community. I love that Dev Patel just put his entire heart and soul into this film, and you can feel it in every single frame. I've been wanting to revisit this movie since I watched it. Coming in at number 8 is Evil Does Not Exist from Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who directed Drive My Car, one of my favorite films of the decade. This movie was incredible. It was simplistic. It was quiet. There was so much attention to detail in every single shot here, and it's all about big business versus people just trying to live their lives, and how we all try to do whatever we can to control the outcomes of our lives, but there are so many external factors kind of getting in the way and making it more difficult. This movie is beautiful, it's simplistic, it's haunting, and I would just recommend going in and watching it completely blind. Coming in at number 7 is the most divisive film of the year, and that is Alex Garland's Civil War. This movie shook me to my core when I watched it in the theater. The performances are exceptional, and I feel like anyone who said that this movie is saying absolutely nothing did not pay any attention, because I feel like this movie was speaking volumes to so many different things. And at its most simple, it's capturing photojournalists in the most heated moments that they can get involved in, and how they have to try to essentially have no emotion when it's difficult when you're watching human beings be brutalized and destroyed, and the line of danger that they have to put themselves into. I thought the cinematography was brilliant. I thought all the performances were exceptional. It's just a really remarkable film, and I'm glad Alex Garland makes movies. Coming in at number 6 is The First Omen, my favorite horror movie of the year so far. I never would have expected a prequel to The Omen to be so incredible, but this movie felt like a film from an entirely different era. Performances were amazing. There was an homage to the 1981 film Possession, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. Just so much little attention to detail in every moment in this movie, and it's just brilliant. I love it so much, and I've been recommending it to pretty much everyone that I know. Coming in at number 5 is the film Problemista. This movie was so much fun. I loved Julio Torres and Tilda Swinton's chemistry. They were having a blast in this movie. There were some moments that made me laugh so hard in this film that I was crying my eyes out. It also had some beautiful dramatic moments, and I think that this was just such an authentic film that you can tell there was a lot of like personal stuff from Julio Torres's life coming out into this movie, and I really respect the hell out of him for it. It's just such an amazing movie. Please support it. It is incredible. Coming in at number 4 is George Miller's Furiosa, Mad Max Saga. This movie was bombastic. It was in your face. It had an amazing performance from Anya Taylor-Joy, and Chris Hemsworth probably gave my favorite villain performance I've seen in quite some time. Charismatic, funny, heartless, just amazing. This movie had so many great twists and turns. I think the more I think about it, the more I liked this movie more than Fury Road, which I know might take a lot of people by surprise. It's just an incredible film that I'm really excited to revisit. Coming in at number 3 is Luca Guadagnino's Challengers, 3 of the best performances of the year. This movie is is sexy, it's exciting, it's over the top. It is just amazing. There are some visual sequences in this movie that were so remarkable. Editing was incredible. I loved how back and forth, like a tennis match, the movie was just really chaotic in moments. And I really love the relationship dynamics established in this film. It's very complex. The decision making of each character is drawn out in a way that immerses you and kind of makes you question each and every motivation of each character. Luca is one of my favorite directors. He continues to be one of my favorite directors. And this just proves that guy is on top of his game and he is just going to keep putting out incredible films. Number 2 is Dune Part 2, one of the most amazing theatrical experiences I've ever had. Arguably one of the greatest science fiction movies ever made. It's everything I loved about Part 1, but better. The storytelling in this is amazing. The performances are incredible. I could not believe some of the visuals that I was witnessing. It's truly hilarious in moments. It's gut-wrenching and sad in others. The ending of this movie just left me speechless. I was just completely and totally blown away. And I really hope that he gets to make Part 3 or Messiah, because you can tell Denis has a love for this property and really wanted to bring it to life in the most authentic and realistic way possible. And no one could do a Dune adaptation like him. He totally nailed it. And number 1, I've said it multiple times, my favorite movie of the year, Jane Schoenbrun's I Saw the TV Glow. One of the most beautiful and personal films I've ever seen. A film that made me cry probably more than any movie I've watched in a long time. This is a movie about the transgender experience through the eyes of a transgender person that is told in such a beautiful and stunning way that just through the visuals, it just moves you and grips you emotionally. I've said it before, I grew up a really lonely and isolated kid that didn't feel like I had a lot of people to relate to, and so I held on to movies and media, and I feel like this movie embodies that and showcases, like, when you feel like you have nowhere else to go, you turn to media. And I feel like there are so many people that can relate to that in a way that Jane so perfectly encapsulates with this movie. The soundtrack is one of my favorites I've ever heard in any movie. The visuals in this are hauntingly beautiful. It is just a must-watch experience that I highly recommend you checking out if you have not. So those are my favorite films of 2024. What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments. I loved so many films from this year. It was so hard to narrow it down, but those are my 15 favorite films of the year. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot. Lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.